Hey everyone! Okay, so a few days ago, Stefan Molyneux did a video where he was talking about his biggest red pill, that moment in his life that changed his perception of the world forever. And I thought it would be kind of fun or interesting just to talk about mine, because I can definitely pinpoint the moment where the whole fantasy kind of fell away and the curtain was drawn on the Wizard of Oz. These are the moments that I think make me who I am, and I certainly believe that for other people as well. And it's not an easy thing to deal with, to have your whole foundation washed away and have to reset your life on a new perception of the world. But to truly live a full and honest life, I feel that everyone has to kind of have one of these moments. Now, in order to tell this story properly, I have to give you a bit of background information and set the scene. Now, I was raised in a really great Christian household, and I spent most of my time running around outside in the woods pretending to fight dragons, and if I wasn't doing that, I was reading about it. I read like it was nobody's business when I was growing up. I always had a stack of books beside my bed that I was just burning through in no time. And when I was a kid, I wanted nothing more than to be like all of the characters that I read about and watched. I wanted to be good. I wanted to serve a higher purpose. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. I wanted to be Frodo Baggins. I wanted to pursue all that was right and just as described in the many fantasy books from J.R.R. Tolkien to C.S. Lewis that I read growing up. Now, of course, as any human does, I fell short and failed at this pursuit many times, but much of my time growing up was spent feeling this extreme sense of moral duty and need to fulfill this purpose, or an extreme sense of guilt for failing to do so. And from the church services that I attended to the classroom presentations I listened in on, I had kind of set up this personal list of the ABCs of what I needed to achieve to be a just human being, to come as close as I could to being these heroic figures that Frodo or Indy represented that I read about growing up. And it wasn't anything like throwing a ring into the fires of Mount Doom, at least not in the literal sense. I had pretty realistic goals. I had things like feeding the homeless, fundraising for kids in Africa, sacrificing your time to go on missions trips, or volunteering for humanitarian organizations, and so on. It seemed pretty clear-cut and easy for me. And I did spend a decent amount of time doing these things, doing fundraisers for humanitarian organizations, volunteering my time for these kind of projects, working at food banks, and when I was about 15, 16, I finally got to that big point in my life where I was going to be able to go on a missions trip. And that was a huge deal for me, especially within my community, because a lot of the time, I had been the one before who was helping to raise funds for these kind of trips. I got to raise funds for the people that were going out and making the change. And now, I finally got to be the person on the ground who really got to go there and put it into action. And I raised around $2,000 or $3,000 for the trip, along with the 15 other odd girls that came along, and we went to go down to South America to go and donate sports equipment and lend a helping hand to the impoverished. But when we got there, it was not exactly what I expected it to be. The whole missions trip literally ended up just being a poverty tourism trip. We went to slums, we went to some of the poorest areas, we hung out with the kids, we would play ball games with them, take pictures with them, and then we would just pack up and drive away. And all the girls would be crying as we drove away because of all the poor kids they just saw. And I'd just be sitting there in the car, shaking my head, thinking to myself, we did absolutely nothing. We didn't do a damn thing for these people. We just took pictures with them. That is it. And it certainly made for great Instagram photos for everyone on the trip. I mean, me with my new best poor kid friend who I knew for like 20 minutes, hashtag changing lives, hashtag missions trip. And I realized that for a lot of these people, it was just about the image. These photos would certainly warm the hearts of those back home and help fundraise for the next mission. But in my mind, after I had experienced this, they were all a freaking lie. I'm not kidding you, the last day that we spent on this missions trip in South America, the leaders of the trip took us all to a water park with the funds that they raised, and they bought us ice cream, and we celebrated all day just playing around on water slides with the stated goal from them of recovering from our potential PTSD from seeing poor people. When I got home, I was pretty mortified, to say the least. I had to go and reevaluate all of the perceptions I had of these humanitarian organizations and acts of goodness that I had built up before as this stable example of what being a just human being was. And I wasn't about to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I really had to wrestle with this idea of the public perception of what is good versus what it actually means for something to be good. And it sent me down a rabbit hole of looking into humanitarian organizations and some of the massive scams people have created by building up the hero image that I had held so close to my heart as a child. And I realized that people were monetizing goodness. Instead of actually going through the personal journey it requires to become the heroes of the fairy tale books that I loved, people were hiring film crews, getting celebrity endorsements, and forging a vacuous facade, a superficial imitation of a hero, in order to appear virtuous and make more money off that. And it didn't really matter that they were lying through their teeth and that their lies were hurting people. What mattered was that the people in their community, in their country, in their society believed those lies. And as long as those people felt all warm and fuzzy inside, knowing that with their purchase, a pair of shoes will go to a kid in Africa, it was all dandy. And the people who were monetizing this hero image were doing a hell of a lot better at convincing people they were doing good than the people who were genuinely doing it. They had the money or the political pull to make high-end production videos of poor African kids. They had the financing to hire celebrities to endorse their political careers or organizations. But meanwhile, a lot of the people who were affecting actual change, who were truly doing good, couldn't afford to waste valuable resources on an advertising campaign. And not to mention, if you decided to try to impact the flow of money of these organizations by criticizing unethical or wasteful behavior, whether it be that of companies, politicians, or NGOs, you could expect large pushback in the form of serious social shaming. Sure, you may know that funneling shoes from the first world into African communities isn't truly good because it crushes their local economy, but do you think walking into a Tom's shoe store and saying you don't want to buy their shoes because you don't want a pair being sent to Africa and destroying the economy looks good? No, you look like a freaking monster. You look like you are trying to take shoes away from starving children. And this reality played out in many different ways throughout my journey in life. The reality that this public perception of good and what is truly good are two entirely different things. So I had this moment in my life where it just hit me that doing what's right does not mean you get to be loved for it. And doing what is wrong doesn't mean you are going to be hated. So while I still believe in that soul and character of the heroes that I read about growing up, and that there truly are still decent, good people out there, I've come to accept that we won't always get to know who they are, and that there are many, many wolves in sheep's clothing that are happy to take the limelight and pretend to be our heroes. It was a really tough pill to swallow for me, but it changed my life in a lot of ways, because it really sparked a curiosity in me to hear what those who were hated had to say, and it really made me skeptical of what those who were loved had to say, and that led to a long domino effect of false narratives collapsing in my life, because I realized that things are not always as they appear, and it's not as simple as I thought it was before. And at this point, the message of this video may sound a bit depressing. I mean, the knowledge that you as an individual could go as far as to throw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom and still go down in history as Sauron instead of Frodo is a lot to deal with mentally. But I guarantee that if you take that route, the hard one, at the end of it all, you will have a smile on your face and a clear conscience. Whereas the people who lied and deceived us with their mask of goodness will have to find out the hard way that there is no price that can be put on the ability to live with yourself. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. That is my biggest red pill moment. I'm sorry if it was a little bit of a depressing video, but yeah, I just thought it would be fun to talk about. I'll see you next time. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and thank you for your support.